Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And today we're going to continue talking about policies for people who want to work from home. Remember last time our article was all about rules for working from home. So we have this policy written out with all the various rules and regulations and the application process and the standard operating procedure. But now we're actually going to have a discussion between some of the employees about these rules. We've got a conversation between Angela, Graham, and Richard, and they like some things about the contract, and they don't like some things about well, it's not actually a contract, but actually kind of a set of rules or something like that.
Guidelines, yeah.
Guidelines, basically. So, yeah, they like some things, and they don't like some other things, and they're having a discussion about those things. So let's get into this right now. Let's listen to the discussion, and then we'll come back to discuss what they discussed.
So, the only item on today's meeting agenda is the working from home policy.
I've circulated the draft policy, and a number of people have voiced their opposition to the requirement to reply to all messages within 15 minutes.
What's the issue?
Many messages don't require acknowledgement. People are worried they'll waste a lot of time continually typing received and so on, and getting distracted. After all, no one has to do this in the office. The CEO wants this in the policy. He believes it stops people from being idle when they're at home.
It seems to me that we should adjust the wording a little. Employees still need to answer questions within that time limit, but not reply to messages that don't need a reply.
That sounds reasonable. Could we also modify the policy by saying that people can take breaks? After all, it's unhealthy to stare at a screen for too long.
How about we amend the policy by saying people can take short breaks if they inform their manager beforehand?
From my point of view, that's acceptable, but they should also alter their internal messenger status so everyone knows what's happening.
Agreed.
Sure. The CEO also wants to clarify who's eligible for the policy. He thinks only people who've worked here for a minimum of 6 months should be allowed to work from home.
I think that's appropriate. I'll add it to the policy.
Okay, let's discuss what they discuss here. And the question is, how can we make this better? So we have this document that has the general rules for working from home, but we're going to discuss this and we're going to try to make some improvements. So here's the question, how can we make this better? It's good, but we want to make it even better. And Angela begins the conversation.
I think this is Angela's meeting. I think she's probably in charge. So she says the only item or the only thing on the agenda is the working from home policy. You have an agenda if you are holding a meeting. It just lists all the things you want to talk about, you want to discuss, or things you want to bring up or maybe decide as a group. It depends on if your meeting is just to maybe initially talk about things but not make any decisions. Sometimes I've gone to meetings and we talk about things, problems usually, and then after we've had a little bit of time to think about these things, then we make decisions. So agendas are important, especially in business. Now, we often use agenda also to talk about motivations someone has. Maybe you have a friend who is asking you to do things that sound a little bit illegal or fishy or dishonest. Yeah, you should find out what their agenda is. So what is the motivation behind what they're asking you to do? Here, though, agenda is just very straightforward. It's a list of items that are going to be discussed in a meeting.
Okay, and here's what Graham has to say. He says, I've circulated the draft policy, and a number of people have voiced their opposition to the requirement to reply to all messages within 15 minutes. So he's got copies of the draft policy. Remember, it's a draft policy. That means it can be fixed or amended as people see fit. And he has sent out emails or in-company memos to all the other employees. And a number of people have voiced their opposition to the requirement to reply to all messages within 15 minutes. So yes, a number of people, quite a few of the employees have stated or have voiced their opposition to a particular requirement. Now, opposition is when you are against something, and I suppose the opposite of that is support. You can voice your support for something, or you can voice your opposition to something. You can say that you are opposed to something. You are against it. You don't like it.
This is a good way to get opinions and viewpoints from other people in the office, just to circulate or send around your draft policy. It's usually in a memo, and see what people think about things. You know, we can come up with guidelines, but maybe we don't see all the problems that might be behind that. So it's good to get other people's viewpoints. So yeah, Graham circulated the draft policy. It's not finalized. They want to get people's feedback before they say, okay, these are the guidelines. We've decided what they are, and people have to follow them. So yeah, a lot of people didn't like the draft policy or what was in there, especially the requirement to reply to all messages within 15 minutes. It sounds like your company doesn't trust you if you have this kind of policy, although I understand why they have it. If somebody needs an answer to a question, a work-related question, quickly, it's frustrating if they can't contact you or get a hold of you. But think about it this way, too. You might have a question for a coworker, but they're currently in a meeting. You still have to wait longer than 15 minutes, you know, to get their response. So, yeah, we just need to make this a little less restricted, I guess, you know. But I would probably say, yeah, 15 minutes is a little crazy, guys.
Yeah, maybe it's a little too strict.
Yeah.
It needs to be a little more flexible. That's what a lot of people think. And Angela says, well, what's the issue? What's the problem? Why are they opposed to this requirement? And Graham says, many messages don't require acknowledgement. Now, acknowledgement here just means you tell somebody that you've understood what they said, or you've received their message. I acknowledge what you say. I've heard it and I understand it, and I'm letting you know that you don't have to say it again. That's what to acknowledge means, to let somebody know that you have received their message or you understand what they said. So yeah, a lot of times messages don't really require that. It's like, I've sent this message out. You don't really need to reply to this, and I don't expect a reply.
One of the ways that you can save time at work is if you ask a coworker for a document and they send it to you, to save time, you can skip sending an email back and saying thank you. But it depends on the relationship with people too. Sometimes I will go ahead and send back a thank you, or if it's a line message, I'll send a sticker, you know, a quick sticker. But yeah, a lot of times wasted on just people responding with, oh, I got what you sent, or you know what I mean. So anyway, yeah, there are lots of things we can do to use our time more productively, I think. So a lot of messages you don't even have to acknowledge. Acknowledgement is the noun form of the verb to acknowledge. To acknowledge someone, sometimes if you acknowledge someone, you're saying, oh, this is my friend so-and-so. Or maybe if someone did a favor for you, you acknowledged that they did that for you. Thank you very much. It was very kind of you. So acknowledging people is important if you want to be polite. So people are worried they're just going to waste a lot of time going, got it. I got that. Yes. So maybe to save time, don't respond to messages that don't need a response. If you get distracted, it's somebody who's getting interrupted from what they're trying to concentrate on or accomplish. It's very distracting for me to listen to music, but Tom likes to listen to music while he's working at home. I love music so much that if I'm listening to music I like, my mind goes somewhere else. It's very distracting to listen to music. I get distracted. The music is distracting. We use different forms of that adjective. So again, distracted just means to not be able to concentrate on something because your mind is on something else.
Yeah, of course, I said I like to listen to music when I'm working at home, but it can't be jazz and it can't be classical music because I'll probably want to sit there and listen to it. Gee, I like the line that the viola is doing there.
Yeah.
Or my goodness, that's a fantastic saxophone solo there. So yeah, it's got to be some kind of simple music like psychedelic music from the 60s. That tends to be kind of mindless music that can be in the background. So yeah, you don't want to be distracted by music or by your pets or things like that. And yes, no one has to do this in the office. They don't have to acknowledge receiving any kind of emails. So that's why a lot of people have voiced their opposition to that requirement.
Sorry, Tom. It sounds like they're spying on you, you know? And if you don't respond quickly, they're like, oh, I know that they're outside shopping or doing something fun. Yeah.
They're doing something they're not supposed to be. And here's what Richard has to say about that. The CEO, the Chief Executive Officer, wants this in the policy. That's the boss. That's what he wants, or she. We don't know if it's a boy or a girl. And, well, we do now. He believes it stops people from being idle when they're at home. So if you're idle, that means you're not really doing something. You're kind of spacing off, or you might be, watching YouTube videos or playing video games or playing fetch with your dog, who knows? So indeed, that's what the CEO believes. He thinks that, hey, if you reply to these emails, if you acknowledge them, that means you're paying attention and you're not daydreaming. And here's what Angela has to say.
Yeah, it seems to me, she says, that we should adjust the wording a little. If you adjust the wording, you change the way you phrase things. Oftentimes, the way you phrase things can really affect people's emotions and feelings. So, employees still need to answer questions within that time limit, but not reply to messages that don't need a reply. So she's actually wanting to adjust the guideline or the policy there. And Graham thinks that sounds reasonable. Common sense is often needed in business and in real life. A lot of people don't have any common sense, but he says, could we also modify or change the policy slightly by saying that people can take breaks? Breaks are important. I try to get up every hour if I'm working at home and just do a quick jog in my apartment, and get my heart rate up, because sitting all day long is really unhealthy, guys, even if you're very young. Try to get up and walk around. It's much healthier for you.
That's right. So, yes, people do need to take breaks, and you don't want to have some person or the boss or whatever looking over your shoulder in the form of having to reply to emails when you're sent emails, and to do that within 15 minutes. Here's what Angela has to say. How about we amend the policy by saying people can take short breaks if they inform their manager beforehand? So here, if you amend something, that means you make a little bit of a change. You don't change the whole thing. You just make kind of a minor change. Maybe you change the wording a little bit, and the noun form, of course, is an amendment. Of course, meetings have minutes that are taken, and then later on they might make some amendments to the minutes to make some changes to reflect reality.
Yeah, we use amend also on official contracts or documents. If you're just wanting to modify or change things, maybe you want to change your research paper a little bit. You want to modify your conclusion. You would typically be more apt or more likely to use modify or change rather than amend. Amend is a pretty formal word for things that are more official, like contracts, again.
And the amendment they want to make is to suggest that people take short breaks if they tell their manager ahead of time, if they inform them beforehand. And here's what Richard has to say. From my point of view, or in my opinion, that's acceptable, but they should also alter their internal messenger status so everyone knows what's happening. So, yes, if you're using the internal messenger, you need to update your status to let them know that's what you're actually doing.
Yep. So there are different ways to kind of let people know that you're connected in, that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. But yeah, Richard has his own viewpoint, and this is a way to say it from my point of view, or my opinion is, he thinks that's acceptable if that's what they do. If you want to take a longer break, you definitely need to talk to your manager or let them know. Maybe you have a doctor's appointment during the day. That's something that you'd want to inform your manager about beforehand, or, as we learned yesterday, do something in advance. So Angela agrees. Graham says, great. And then Richard says the CEO also wants to clarify or make something clear who's eligible for the policy. If you're eligible for something, it means you fulfill all the requirements needed. For example, in America, we got checks from the government. It's actually just our own tax money being returned. We got a check from the government to help us through COVID. If you weren't a U.S. citizen or had not paid taxes the previous year, you were not eligible. So there are all sorts of places that won't let you join or participate in because you're not eligible. So sometimes little kids can't go on rides at Disneyland or other amusement parks because they're too short. They're too small, so they're not eligible, or they aren't able to go because they don't fulfill requirements.
And Richard goes on to say, he thinks only people who've worked here for a minimum of 6 months should be allowed to work from home. So the CEO thinks that you need to have worked in this company for at least 6 months before you are eligible for this policy, before you are eligible to work at home. And Angela says, I think that's appropriate. I'll add it to the policy. So she's going to amend the policy. She's going to make an amendment. And hopefully everybody will be happy now. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Let's listen now to our Chinese teacher.
听众朋友大家好，我是安娜。我们昨天看了 AMC 在家上班的一些规章，我们今天来看看 AMC 的3位员工针对这个规章做一个开会，看看要怎么调整会比较好呢？其实开会的这个 meeting agenda 唯一的一个 item就是所谓在家上班的规章到底是如何呢？那 Graham 其实在之前就已经先传阅了整个规章的草案，在第一个 Graham 当中看到了一个 draft 这个字，那么这个 draft 其实就有草案啊，或者是草稿的意思，所以特别指的是法案规章的草案可以用 draft policy。不过呢，他发现很多人都反对在15分钟之内就一定要回复所有讯息的这样子的一个 requirement 一个要求。不过 Angela 这个时候就觉得有点奇怪了，这个如果是在家上班，你就是在桌上这个对着电脑，这样有什么样的困难吗？Graham 这个时候就回答啦，因为他会觉得说，很多人表示这个讯息有时候是有很多讯息根本就不需要 acknowledgement， 不需要去确认，所以有可能会因为很多人推进讯息，就变成大家浪费很多时间，一直去打一些什么 received 收到啦，这一类的字眼，就会 get distracted。会分心，因为毕竟在办公室里面也不需要每一个讯息都回复。可是呢，这时候 Richard 就特别说了，我们在第一个 Richard 当中看到一个管理者叫做 CEO。CEO 呢，他是执行长哦。执行长他表示他想要把这件事情写在这个 policy 这个规章里面，因为他觉得如果是规定大家在15分钟之内一定要回复 acknowledgement 要确认，那么就可以防止大家在家的时候不小心就晃神啦，不小心就无所事事了，就 idle around。好，所以其实是有一些需要调整的。在 这一次当中，因为会议特别是要针对这个 policy 做一些调整，所以在今天的对话当中，我们看到了英文调整的3个单字。第一个单字出现在第3个 Angela 这边，她提到的是 adjust A-D-J-U-S-T。 接下来 Graham 的回答，也就是文章当中对话当中第3个 Graham， 我们看到第2句修改调整 modify M-O-D-I-F-Y。 那么接着 Angela 的回答，也就是在对话当中第4个 Angela 前面第1句修改，我们看到的是 amend A-M-E-N-D。 所以调整呢，我们今天就学了3个英文单字 adjust modify amend。好，不过我们要特别注意中间第3个 Angela 这个地方，它中文讲的是，在我看来，我觉得我们应该要调整一下措辞 wording 的这个部分。这个第1句话其实是一个虚主词的句型哦，虚主词一定会用 it， 虚受词也一定只有这个单字叫做 it。 那么虚主词的句型通常会用 it 加动词，后面真主词可以用 that 完整子句，或者是 to do something。 例如我们在这句话当中看到的是 It seems to me， 对我来说似乎是这样一件事情。哪件事呢？虚主词是 it， 而真主词后面从 that 一直到句尾才是真正令 Angela 觉得似乎是真正的情况。什么事呢？ We should adjust the wording a little， 其实把措辞稍微调整一下就可以了。好，所以措辞如果说稍微调整之后呢，我们就是把它修改成员工还是要在时间之内这个 time limit 里面回答问题，但是不需要去回复不需要回复的讯息。接下来 Angela 这个第2句话当中就出现了关系子句哦。关系子句在最后面，我们看到逗点之后的地方，先行词是 messages， 可以画起来。那么关系子句从 that 一直到句尾的地方，我们可以左右括号。当然 that 代替的是前面的 messages。那么后面呢，我们在括号里面看到 that 本身是当关系子句的主词， that don't need a reply， 不需要回复的那些 messages， 这些讯息。同样在这个对话当中，其实也有出现一个关系子句。那么另外一个关系子句就出现在对话比较后面的地方，第3个 Richard 的地方。第3个 Richard 我们看到第2句哦，这个地方会稍微有一点点的令人困扰，因为我们先把这个关系子句抓出来，先行词是 people 这个字划线，那么关系子句从 who 到后面 months 6个月这个地方又括号。好，我们来看一下，先行词是 people 就是这一个字，那么前面的 only 呢，不是 only people， 而是 Richard他认为只有那些什么什么的人才可以 work from home。 我们先看一下这个关系子句，先行词 people， 那么关系子句从 who 到这个 month 的地方，指的是只有工作超过6个月以上的人才可以被允许在家工作。所以其实先行词不是 only people 哦，如果先行词是 only people， 那么关代不可能用 who， 只能用 that。 但是在这里先行词只有很单纯一个字是 people， 只有那一些什么什么的人才可以在家工作。好，所以这个地方是比较这个复杂的地方，我们特别把它切出来看。好，那么不过今天的会议呢，大概就是在这个地方，然后他们也做了一些这个修改。那我们的听众朋友呢，有一些也是在家上班工作的，不晓得你们的规定如何呢？以上是我们的今天的内容，我是安娜，我们下次见。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, we've got some useful expressions here. If you're having a meeting and you're discussing something in a meeting, you want to express your views and opinions, okay? You want to put your 2 cents worth into the discussion. So here are some examples of what you might say in order to express your opinion. The first one is, in my opinion, people should only be allowed to work from home 10 days each month. That's my opinion. That's what I think.
Yeah, we hear this a lot. If you preface what your opinion is with the statement, in my opinion, people know that this is how you view things. I think that's a good way to express your viewpoint. Now, number 2 is, it seems to me that, or this is how it looks to me. I think one of our characters, Angela, used this phrase, it seems to me. This is what she sees it as being. So she says, it seems to me that we're not going to find a solution to this question today. Oh, this is a different sentence. Yeah, maybe finding solutions are going to take longer than you would prefer, but it's best to discuss things until everybody's on board or happy with the conclusion that you've come to or the decision you've come to. Number 3, Tom.
Well, number 3 says, if you ask me, we should pause this project until we have more information. So these are ways that you can express your opinion. In my opinion, it seems to me. And finally, if you ask me, okay, you're not asking me, but if you were to ask me, this is what I would say. We should pause this project until we have more information. Yeah, we cannot continue with this project because we just don't have enough information. We just can't decide this right now. Okay, so there you have it, some useful expressions that you can use when you're expressing views and opinions. Now, here comes our discussion question for today. Why do you think some companies are resistant to the idea of letting people work from home?
I think it's a matter of trust. I was reading in the newspaper a couple of days ago that some of these folks who are working from home have actually taken on different part-time jobs. And so they're actually working during the time they're being paid by one boss. They're working on another project for someone else. So sadly, not everybody is honest. And so this is the primary reason why some bosses or companies are resistant or are fighting this idea of letting everyone work from home. If we could trust each other or trust everyone to do what they are being paid to do and what they say they will do, then we wouldn't have a problem. A lot of companies before COVID were actually monitoring people's computers. I know I was teaching someone at a big insurance company in Taiwan, and they blocked the internet for most of them. So I could never just say, oh, let's go to this website. I'll show you what they say. No, the company blocked it because a lot of people were surfing during work hours and wasting time.
Yeah, of course, if you're working for a company like that who doesn't trust you, if the CEO doesn't trust you, you might think, I've been working for this company for so many years and the boss still doesn't trust me. I'm going to quit. But the fact is, a lot of people come up with all sorts of excuses why they can do stuff. Yeah, I'm an honest person, but still I'm home here and, I could do this thing on the side. What's wrong with that? So that's probably one reason why bosses of companies are reluctant to let people work from home. They'll just do these things even if the people are honest or not. It's just very difficult to control people in those circumstances. Okay, that brings us to the end of our discussion for today, and it brings us to the end of our lesson for today. So let's wrap things up and we'll say goodbye. So thanks for listening, and please join us again next time. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.